electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Open your mind.
Hello, Red Pills family. Welcome and happy Friday to everyone. This is Conversations on the Fringe. I am your host, Jeff Spike Wong. And today we are so happy to have back the fantastic investigating historian, the best I've ever seen, Mike S. King. How are you doing, Mike?
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm doing well. Good to be with you. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. And I'm so excited because there's so much things going on.
Yeah.
And as you all know, the social media has gone off the charts regards to Epstein file, regards to the exposure of things that we've talked about and Satanisms and things of that nature. So let's start with this. The book here that you put out, The Secret Plan to Save Humanity. Everything you have in here is actually now showing up through the files.
Yeah.
So the thing I would say for folks out there who's now started to wake up a little bit or being on the fence of saying, oh man, what is actually going on? This is the book. Yeah. You can get this on Amazon and it's required to really understand what's going on. So if you don't mind, Mike, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions just in here that I've highlighted. So we kind of really understand a little bit deeper of what is all going on. On page 14, there was a statement in regards to the secret war between the factions extends to outer space. Can you share with us regards to how big is this thing?
Right. Well, I don't mean other planets, of course, but Trump made the Space Force a big priority in his administration, and he actually declared it as a separate branch of the military. And you'll see a lot of times he does this thing with his hand. It's like the Space Force logo.
Yes.
So yeah, there's something going on there. I mean, the CIA has always had satellites up there, and I believe the Space Force was used to take out a lot of CIA capabilities up there, and also to monitor voter fraud and things like that, electronically. So it's not exactly sure what's going on, but this clearly extends into space. That's why Space Force was made such a priority,
right?
By Trump. It's all about the communications and the surveillance, and that is where the Cuban military operation achieved total dominance.
Yeah,
and it's the foundation of the whole operation is their surveillance capabilities, because that's how they were able to gather all of the dirt that they later used to hang the deep state with, and there's a whole methodology of how they introduced that dirt. So that's what I mean by it's also extended into space.
Yeah, in this type of technology, we're talking about so futuristic, mind blowing. They can literally survey down to one spot on the planet from way up there. Things like that.
Well, that. And also the surveillance of things like the computerized voter fraud, and such. Anything to do with any sort of electronic communication or technology, they have total capability to surveil everything. And that's how the war. And that's how the war was won.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. There's also some Q posts talking about the destruction and the dismantling of certain systems up there. It's very vague and very technical, apparently only for insiders. But and I do believe that, like the capabilities that the deep state had, they took those out. as well.
Okay.
So yeah.
Right.
And then there's the stuff going on in tunnels under the ground. So there always has been, in my view,
Yeah.
even though this is a technological war and a communications war and a legal war, irregular warfare, there's absolutely, for sure, an element of it that's live. Things being blown up, people being killed that we don't see.
Yeah.
So,
and we have, I would say, the last since 2020 to 2022, there was a lot of talk about the underground dumbs being blown up or shut down and things like that. We don't hear much about that anymore. So is that assumption to be that we've kind of taken care of that issue?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, it's hard to say because that's something like you just kind of pick up bits and pieces and you have an overall idea something's going on. But as far as like a play-by-play, like we do with the other stuff, that's like impossible to gauge. But I would think by now that's all been cleaned up as well.
That would be great.
There's entire cities under there. It's like a hidden civilization almost in essence.
Yes.
Vast highway networks and when the deep state Satanists launch their World War III, which isn't going to happen now, thankfully, but the idea, they would need a place to go and sit it out in luxury.
Right.
Okay. I have no doubt that there's like some really luxury communities down there and hotels that were meant for the elites to escape to.
Wow.
And yet there's some global catastrophe of their own making. Yeah.
Sure. That's incredible. So a lot of missing monies that Black Ops programs and things like that probably went to fund this.
Yeah.
Incredible. Okay. So on page 16, something jumped out at me. Blacks will abandon the Democratic Party when they learn about Hillary's kidnapping and sex trafficking of Haitian children. Mm-hmm. Now, I remember that incident happening. Of course, a woman was basically arrested for trafficking. I forgot her name.
Laura Silsby.
Okay, right.
Laura Silsby.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the Clintons got her out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you really believe the Black community in that sense when they see this and what is actually going to be the exposure you believe for them to actually go, oh, it did happen, from that point?
Well, that's part of a process. And I think it's already started. It just started with this second batch. The first batch they released last year, that was a big nothing burger.
Yeah.
You recall.
Yeah.
And we're all disappointed. Now, in retrospect, we see what you're doing. By doing it in phases, it penetrates the mentality of people much better. I make the analogy to rain. If you really want to irrigate crops, you don't hope for a torrential downpour to break the drought because it'll all just run off and flood. Yeah. Slow penetrating rain. So that's what the first batch was about. Now, the second batch was just released. It's gone up a notch. And some of this nasty stuff is starting to come out. And I won't say it's gone mainstream yet, but it's seeping into the mainstream.
Right.
And then there's the third wave that will come. I expect some really nasty stuff to go in there. But at some point you have universal public awareness of what's going on.
Right.
By now, and this is a big achievement. I want you to remember that in 2017, when Q began posting, late October 2017, is among his very first posts, maybe like the first 20 posts, there were mentions of Epstein's Island and the Satanism and how big it is and how fundamental it will be when the storm comes, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that's really amazing because in 2017, nobody heard of Epstein Island.
Right.
Probably single-digit percent. Only news junkies heard of that, there was this billionaire guy and he's got an island somewhere. Maybe some vague knowledge.
Right.
But by and large, if you're talking over 90% of the public, I guarantee if you went and asked people back 27, what do you think about Jeffrey Epstein? Who? What's that all about?
Yeah.
Okay. And here, lo and behold, at this time, Q is not only bringing up his name, telling us that when the time comes, it's going to be everything. It's the whole ball game, the whole destruction of the deep state.
Yeah.
Is going to hinge, refers to Epstein Island as the keystone.
Mm-hmm.
So we went from there and look where we are now.
Right.
100% awareness. Even the most dimmest normie who doesn't even care about things or watch, everybody has heard that there's this fellow Jeffrey Epstein and he had an island and some big important people were there and did some naughty things and it's being covered up. Just that basic narrative.
Right.
That's 100% coverage right now.
Yeah.
About
yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's been a fantastic decade.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that in history of anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you're right. That I think that the awareness has reached that global
Right.
coverage at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing on page 35, you had a point saying during some point of COVID hoax, Dr. Fauci and Birx were informed that their dirty games was over.
Yeah.
So they were called out
Sure.
on it.
Right.
So is this the reason why that this is basically somewhat suppressed, taken care of? We don't see much about Fauci or Birx, despite of Birx pretty much admitted that, this whole thing was made up.
Right. That part's not in the Q post because you also Q stopped posting essentially in 2021. So you have to, there's a lot you have to take information from other places and happenings, and we kind of infer this.
Yes.
But I'm totally convinced all these people are gone. Birx, her appearance changed radically. Her face, her hair, that's not her.
Yeah.
She went from evil Dr. Birx to a Birx who's was dropping truth bombs, almost becoming a good guy, right?
Yeah.
Fauci looks different. He's got there's pictures where he looks like he's wearing a mask. We just know this by, you have to understand how the operation works. And I can confidently infer who has disappeared and eliminated.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, what evidence do you have of that? You're looking at it wrong. You can't always get the actual hard forensic evidence, but if you see a huge accumulation of data points and you understand the patterns and how the operation works, I can say confidently these people have been removed.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not been executed yet. Maybe they're in a cell somewhere, but they're not around. All the people who perpetrated that COVID hoax and the election fraud and the Russia hoax, they're gone. They're dead. Does anyone have any doubt that was the fake Joe Biden for 4 years?
Right. Yeah. Especially with the recent
in
file
our community. I mean, how can?
Right.
So a lot of people, hundreds, thousands, disappeared and taken care of, removed, replaced. Now, why did it have to be done this way? And there's a specific Q post that said the players will have to be removed because they're dangerous, and there's like a certain way of doing it.
Yeah.
So you can't just publicly go out there and round up thousands of important people.
Right.
That would have spooked the country. That would have given the deep state exactly what they wanted. They could say this is a takeover, a military takeover. No. The idea was to quietly do it on the down low, get rid of the dangerous people first. And then reenactment, which is what I hope we're on the precipice of.
Yeah.
Because if you start seeing arrests, whether it's related to election fraud, Epstein's Island, Russia hoax, whatever, be assured these will all be replays.
Yeah. Yeah. I got you.
Hillary's not around. She's dead.
Right.
If she gets arrested, it's a replay. But that's why it had to be done this way. They couldn't just shock the public because they want the public behind this effort 100%.
Right.
You see?
Yeah, I agree. And let me just say this to the Red Pill audience. A lot of this misdirection and so forth is, like you said, we just couldn't have this avalanche of destruction, of arrests. And because I think cognitive dissonance will definitely set into a lot of folks. So with that, I wanted to show this book that you created and wrote, Dig 'Em Up, because I think this fits the narrative of regards to kind of almost like what we're kind of still going through. This is a book about assassinations that is not coming up through history being assassinations. Can you comment a little bit about this, please?
Right. And well, the title is Dig 'em Up for the purpose of doing a forensic examination on the body to see what killed these individuals. The book features 40 prominent people, mainly from the world of politics, some science, some entertainment, but 40 people over the last century and a half, really, who died. And but they fit certain criteria. I didn't just put everybody in the book because they just had a heart attack. You're looking at people who, in one way or another, were obviously problematic to the cabal or to the New World Order, to this secret invisible government that we've been suffering under for the last few centuries. So they all had that in common. They were a problem. Two, generally speaking, they were relatively young, 50s and 60s. There's a few that are older. Three, they died kind of suddenly, or their illness that killed them just came out of nowhere, and they were apparently healthy at that time. And four, their death proved to be beneficial for the powers that be. So if you put all those criteria together, and what you have is all 40 of these individuals. And by the way, since publishing that book last year, I've discovered about 6 or 7 more that need to be entered. In criminal justice, there's a sequence of standards that you have to meet to get to the point where you convict somebody and put them in jail. It doesn't start with hard evidence. That's the final stage. It starts with the standard is called reasonable suspicion. Okay. A cop can't just pull you over because he feels like it. But if you're like zigzagging a little bit while you're driving, he can. Because there's a reasonable suspicion. Maybe this guy's been drinking. Why is he driving around? But even then, you can't be convicted of drunk driving until you take the test. Right? So, but it's a process. It goes from reasonable suspicion to probable cause. And then you get the conviction at the end. I was just looking to meet the standard of reasonable suspicion. Otherwise, you're not included in this book.
Right.
And I can tell you clearly, all 40 of them meet that standard of reasonable suspicion.
Right.
Many of them are obviously probable cause, and a lot of them are no-brainers. They were killed. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of them are United States presidents.
Right.
Zachary Taylor, William Harrison, right? Chester Alan Arthur, James Polk. The history books teach that we've had 4 presidents assassinated.
Right. Yeah.
Lincoln, Garfield, JFK, and McKinley.
Yeah.
Well, those are kind of obvious because they were shot.
Yes.
But I am convinced that historically the preferred method of assassination is not lone gunman or bomber. There's a lot of that going on in Europe. They would throw bombs at the kings.
Yes.
It's poison. You have your secret societies. You penetrate. You get close to the target. It's a little something in the drink and the food. It's not hard to do.
Right.
And it's built-in plausible deniability. You don't have to go out then and kill the assassin so he doesn't talk, right? Or you don't have to sell a story about a crazy lone gunman. Well, he had a heart attack. He had a stroke. I mean, these things happen.
Yeah.
It's always the case when somebody died. And none of these cases had autopsies. It's just move along, nothing to see here. Let's not be conspiracy theorists. So I really believe that the majority of assassinations historically of important people were done by poison.
Yeah.
And some of the names that are in this book, a lot of them U.S. presidents, vice presidents, senators. In more contemporary times, I list Kerry Mullis, who invented the PCR test upon which they based the COVID hoax. And he had said this is not to be used for diagnosis. Michael Jackson. But it's a real mind blower. There's no way you can read that book and not believe that the preferred method of assassination is poison. Even if some of these you can dismiss, maybe he did have a heart attack, maybe he did have a stroke. You see the unmistakable pattern here.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic book. I think it really hits something on the nail here. It opens up really how the deep state was infiltrating and working behind the scenes to enslave Americans. And this is one of the best, I think, a topic that you came up with on that. Okay, so this next book that I have, which is Dixieland Deceived. This is about the Civil War. We had these great, of course, documentaries produced. We've been taught in school. And this is exposed to that was a story that we were taught to learn about this war.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with what the war is. So please comment on that for us.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting book because it's a case. It's a very unusual case where both conventional accounts of the Civil War.
Yeah.
One is the official establishment northern version of events. The other one being the southern version of events. They're both totally wrong and false. Okay.
Yeah.
So this takes a third position here that very few people are aware of. So what is the conventional story of the Civil War, as most people who learned it, say in high school, believe?
Yeah.
Oh, once upon a time there was slavery, and the North went to war to stop slavery. That's the Civil War in the South.
Right. Yes.
That's not it. That's not root cause.
Yeah.
What's the Southern version of it? Oh, the Union was tyrannical. Had nothing to do with slavery. The South just wanted to break free and follow the Constitution, and the Union said, no, you can't leave. Well, that's also false. So if they're also false, then what is the true story of the Civil War? And I mean that in a political sense. Who's bringing this about? Who's moving the pieces and to what end?
Yes.
Okay. And surprise, surprise, we see the hand of the usual suspects were also involved in this as well. Yeah. And I quote from letters that Solomon Rothschild, who just before the outbreak of Civil War was touring America, he's writing back to his cousin. So he's the biggest Rothschild of France, and he's writing to his cousin Lionel, who's the King Rothschild of London, about how we've got to support the Confederacy, and Lincoln is horrible, etc. This and that. The British are involved. The Rothschilds are involved. Secret societies are heavily involved, and even many of the people in the South pushing for secession. It's clear they're not even aware of these big players who are causing this trouble. The purpose of the U.S. Civil War was to stop this emerging powerhouse country from getting more powerful, both in a manufacturing sense and a political sense.
Yeah. Split
it up so you could play the two against each other. And beyond that, you could even split it up into a third country and a fourth country. That's what the cabal was aiming to do. And this aligned very well with British objectives, because they didn't like a manufacturing competitor that the Union was, especially the protective tariffs. Yeah. So the British were instigating. They provided enormous support. The Civil War should have only lasted 1 year. There were so many arms and supplies going to the Confederates coming from the British. So it's the same cast of characters that later on, start World War I and World War II, that British Rothschild alliance working through secret societies like the Knights of the Golden Circle. Yeah. And what they did is they inflamed over a period of time the people of the South. They used fake news to do that. They bought up newspapers, these secessionists. Told the Southern people, those Yankees, they want to oppress us, and whipping up all this hate, split the country. And the reason the Union went to war was to preserve the country. Having said that, it is also true that Lincoln opposed slavery, hated slavery.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, to save the country, he would have, the main focus, the Republican Party was founded in 1854 specifically. The main plank was to stop the spread of slavery into the new territories, which would later become slave states. So yes, slavery is an important factor, but mainly the Union went to war to stop this insurrection.
Wow.
And the South went to war because these were ambitious scoundrels who, some knowingly, some unknowingly, were serving secret society, Rothschilds, etc. That whole bunch. So that's the idea. Not at all unlike what we've seen in more recent times with the conspiracy to split Russia into a bunch of different ethnic pieces.
Yes.
Okay, or the old Austro-Hungarian Empire. This is how the cabal does. To swallow, it's easier to swallow up the smaller pieces than a big whole. So you promote these secessionist civil wars.
Yeah.
So yes, there is a very heavy Rothschild British angle to the United States Civil War.
Right.
So in essence, both of the commonly accepted versions of events are totally wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic
including the South. Yeah. We call this revisionist Southern history. They say, "Oh, we were being oppressed by the." No, you weren't.
Right.
And nor did the North go to war just to abolish slavery, because the Union was to preserve the Union. I mean, Lincoln was perfectly willing to let slavery, keep your slaves, and there'll be no federal changes.
All right.
Just it's not going to go to the new territories. But if that's what it takes to avoid war, you can keep slavery as is.
Mm.
And still they seceded, which shows that was a pretext as well.
Right.
So that's the true story of intrigue. But yes, the Rothschilds were heavily involved.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much for doing that book, because that book I think is so important to America as a country, to every one of us need to know actually how this country developed and grew to what we became today. And not just it was just, a little blip of the story and we make movies about it and then they put it away. Yeah. Okay. So this last book I want to show to the audience here is I Don't Like Ike. And, interesting thing is he was involved in World War II. And then he somehow got the seat of the president. And he has no qualifications, I would say. So please share with us a little bit in regards to why you wrote this.
Yeah. Normally when I'm motivated to write a book on a subject, it's because I'm like fed up of hearing so much disinformation about that subject.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the big ones is that, Eisenhower was a good guy. He warned about the military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
No, that's not what he was saying. But he wasn't even qualified to be an officer. He was almost kicked out of the Army when he was young.
Right.
At West Point, he's like the bottom quarter of his class, nothing special.
Yeah.
By contrast, Douglas MacArthur was number one, and he had like the highest score ever in the history of the world at West Point. So he's no great genius, no great military genius, low-level officer. But even before he became president, the career of Eisenhower manifested this very strange upward mobility, rocket-like. And he's just getting promoted, leapfrogged over scores of senior officers, up and up and up and up.
Yep.
Then becomes general, then he gets stars, then he becomes the Supreme Allied Commander of World War II.
Yeah.
Then Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. And just to give him a little academic veneer, they got him a no-show job, literally a no-show job, presidency of Columbia University. Because concurrent with that, he's heading up NATO. He's in Europe most of the time.
Yeah.
He gets to put on the cap and gown, and that's how they beefed up his academic credentials or intellectual credentials. He didn't really have any.
Yeah.
But how did this happen? This remarkable rise, and I traced that in the book. Very early on, he became part of a clique that became buddies with Bernard Baruch, the most powerful man in America, probably from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. Big Jewish financier based in New York. Now that's an odd pairing, isn't it? This New York City financier is quote unquote good friends with this Kansas farm boy, Dwight D. Eisenhower. But the whole clique was Eisenhower, George Marshall, who later became head of the Army during World War II, later Secretary of State, General Pershing, who was the top American general in World War I, and then and Fox Connor, who would be his number two in World War I. They were all this nice little clique: General Connor, General Pershing, General Marshall, General Eisenhower, and Bernard Baruch. and they would go duck hunting. They were buddies.
Yeah.
And all of their careers just went up, 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 and up. Funny how that happens.
Yes.
You get friendly with Bernard Baruch, you end up becoming a president or a British prime minister. Churchill, Wilson. Baruch owned them all. He owned a young Dwight David Eisenhower.
Wow.
And when you understand that, you understand this rash of promotions that started just as the buildup towards World War II was beginning in the early mid-30s. He just gets one promotion after another. It just goes up the ranks of officers. And then even when he becomes a general, he starts getting more and more stars. And when you look at it, this is someone who was literally almost expelled from the army.
Right.
He committed some kind of fraud. He was claiming benefits, saying his family lived with him, but his family was actually back home, something like that.
Yeah.
You do that at the army. They're very strict on honor and stuff. And here he is. He's money grubbing.
Yep.
Almost got kicked out of the army. There are people who really wanted him out. But then, because he's part of that Pershing clique in Fox Connor, he had protection. So, but then it doesn't end there. After the war, like I said, he becomes Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, President of Columbia University. And then in 1952, when it seemed the country was really beginning to resist and push back against the globalist communist onslaught, because too much had happened too fast. Okay. Yeah. Because the name of the game is patient gradualism. But when you push too hard, people start to wake up a little bit. Yeah. And this was happening in America. At the McCarthy hearings, the House Committee on Un-American Activities, and Eastern Europe had fallen to Stalin, and then there was the Korean War. China falls to communism, and people are asking themselves, what the hell's going on here? We made this tremendous sacrifice to win World War II, and now both domestically and internationally, the communists are taking over everything. What's going on? And 1952, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that the next president would be a Republican after 28 years of Democrat. Yeah. 20 years of Democrats, FDR and Truman. It was so bad, Truman, who was eligible to run again, didn't even run as a Democrat. So what they did is the usual cast of characters went out and they recruited the war hero, Soldier Boy. Yeah. Eisenhower, and they made him an instant Republican. And at the convention, very contentious, controversial Republican convention, 1952, all kinds of dirty deals and scams were run. Because back in those days, it was a combination of primaries and the convention. So the convention was critical. They managed to maneuver and essentially steal the nomination from Senator Robert Taft, who's one of the good guys, and it went to Eisenhower instead. And that was the ultimate psyop, false opposition. It's like, it's going to be a Republican. The right wing is becoming very strong and influential. They're pushing back against globalism. What do? You go out and you do a false opposition maneuver. And that's what Eisenhower was. And then there's a whole story, I get into it in my book, how he systematically killed all of these efforts that were taking place in the Congress and in the Senate to investigate the globalist institutions, the tax-exempt foundations, the communists, the McCarthy. He killed it all behind the scenes. And nobody suspected it because he's the great war hero. That's right. It is. He was portrayed as this fatherly figure, stable, conservative. He was a radical leftist at the head of the Republican Party. Yeah. And it was under his 8-year rule that the Republican Party pretty much completed a transition from what was still a majority conservative, constitutional, old school, Trumpian type party to a rhino party. They've been useless ever since. Eisenhower did that. He did a lot of horrible things. Yeah. To shock people. Yeah.
Well, from what you exposed here, definitely shows that being handpicked and groomed and developed into the position, the agenda was fulfilled. And it wouldn't be far-fetched with what we know today that this whole group still, all even back then and further back, was the satanic rituals and so forth, because it seems to be that controlled the politicians, that control the governments, and that control how the countries operate. Would you agree with that statement?
Oh yeah, and you could see, especially now in retrospect, given everything we've learned in recent years, the Epstein, the Q operation, et cetera, the Pizzagate, you look back with a different set of eyes now, and you can see the Satanism.
Yes.
For example, D-Day of World War II. There's a big invasion. The Allied forces, the Americans, the British, the Canadians, the Australians, invading Northern Europe from England. It was named D-Day. What does D stand for? Nobody knows. They just gave it that name. Well, the official name of the operation is called Operation Overlord. Who's the Overlord? I don't think they're referring to God Almighty. So D-Day, Overlord, could that be Satan? Well, the kicker is this. The Grand Invasion was launched at precisely 6 a.m. on June 6th. Sixth day, the 6th month, the 6th hour. Exactly. 666. So stuff like that. I mean, that's too much. That's not by coincidence. You see? And then there's the big sign that everyone was flashing. V for victory.
Yeah.
Or is that V for devil's horns? And Churchill was always flashing. Now, we know Churchill's a homo and a pedo. That's pretty much well established.
Yeah.
He's running around. Devil's horns, V for victory. Well, stuff like that. And you could see it throughout the years, a lot more subtle.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a satanic cult, and it probably goes back centuries.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I'm so blown basically of what we know today. And like you said, as we now look at it with a different set of eyes and open mind, just how much that the society has been played into being pushed into a belief system, being steered into what should be the norm, and then accepting it, So let's talk about your new book, the 1913 book, which I'm just really, always have said that 1913 was a turning point in America, in not a good way by any such means. So please share with us about your new book and the direction you took on this.
Well, it certainly was an unlucky year, unlucky 1913. By the way, this is my 35th book here. This is the one.
Yeah.
Most of them are available on Amazon. My Amazon page is Mike S. King. The most economical way, or at least to start out, if you want them all in PDF format, $35 for $29, an absolute steal, considering the knowledge you're going to acquire.
Absolutely.
You go to realnewsandhistory.com, the book's PDF sections. You can get them all in PDF format. So, you don't have to be intimidated by a huge expenditure of getting them all in physical form. You can get them all for $29, or you can get them in paperback. So you go to realnewsandhistory.com, look for Mike King University. That's what I call it. PDF format or paperbacks and Kindle. Yeah. This one is also available on Amazon, which is what, if you're going to get the physical books, I prefer you go there. It's a lot more easier and quicker. Yes. But this is titled Apologies to J.P. Morgan. Subtitle, A New Look at the Creature from Jekyll Island in 1913. And there's a dual purpose with this book. I mean, first I want to, for people who don't know, I want to educate and inform them about 1913. As you said, that is one of the most pivotal years in American history. It's the big one, arguably the most important year in American history because of what they achieved in that year. And what I cover in that book is all the surrounding context and the historical context leading up to it. And that's what I do, I must say, very well in all my books, is I give chronological context. Because if you just go to a major event and begin the story there, what do you know? Right. It's like if I ask you, Jeff, tell me all about yourself, and you just start with today. Right. I mean, I want to know, I would have to know if I'm going to truly, like I say, I was writing a biography about you. What about your childhood, your upbringing, your family, relationships, all that?
Right.
You don't get none of that with conventional history. Whenever they talk about these historic years, they start with the event itself as if it came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
My book, and on this topic, 1913, I go back to the 1890s because that's when the process starts. And you see the suspense, the intrigue, the series of events, even murder, lots of it, even some dig 'em up cases.
Yeah.
Before you even get to 1913, all of that was prelude, setting up the pieces, just like Q has been setting up the pieces these last 9 years to where we are now. Well, the bad guys, that's how they operated as well. And when you have that context, your mind is blown. And I want people to know the context, but also how important that was. What happened in that year that's so important? Well, boom, boom. In October, the personal income tax is imposed. How many people are aware of that? There was no income tax in America up until 1913.
Right.
A nation of 90 million people, growing, expanding, middle class booming, immigrants clamoring to get in here.
Yeah.
Right. To move up.
Yeah.
All without an income tax. And then 2 months later, the Federal Reserve System, which we now know is the counterfeiting operation in the United States. If you wonder why a decent cut of steak now is like $20 in the grocery store, that's your Federal Reserve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they were able to begin the process of controlling the government because you control the money supply. So those two events, income tax, Federal Reserve, changed the course of history. And it caused so much economic suffering. But it's all had geopolitical implications as well, because they had to be in place before they could kick off their party the next year, World War I, 1914. Because all along, the goal was you start the war in Europe, and the setup for that goes back to the 1880s, 90s as well. And then ultimately bring the United States in. It wasn't supposed to be just a European war. Eventually, they had to bring the United States in because if you're going to have a world government, League of Nations, to come out of the aftermath of World War I, which was the plan, it's not much of a world government without the great superpower of the Western Hemisphere in it. And if you're going to bring the United States in, you need in advance the funding mechanism set up for it, which were income tax and the Federal Reserve. So that's why it's so critical. 1913, that was a whole ball game right there.
Yeah.
All right. So my book does that, explains how we got to that point, the significance of 1913. But more importantly, and this gets to the title, the intriguing and surprising title of the book is Apologies to J.P. Morgan.
Right.
Because what is so shocking, and I made that shocking for purpose.
Okay.
It's good clickbait, I'll admit. But also, I actually do wish to apologize to J.P. Morgan. Because I have always believed, ever since my first Red Pill days, this is like 34 years ago, and I've written about constantly, spoken about how the Federal Reserve was established and who was behind it. And no one in our movement has ever had a good thing to say about him or Senator Nelson Aldrich, because we've been led to believe that he is one of the founding fathers of the big manipulators who set up the Federal Reserve System. And the reason I came to believe that is because so many researchers and authors before me I highly respect, and I still do, both in terms of their intellect and their character. That's what they said. And they got it from the people before them. That's what they say. And then if you go to the other end, to our adversary, our enemy's version of events, you go right to the website of the Federal Reserve. They talk about their history. What did they say? Well, it was conceived at Jekyll Island, blah, blah, blah. It's the private hunting club. J.P. Morgan was a prominent member of, and Nelson Aldrich. So you have a version of events that's universally accepted by both establishment and quote unquote far-right conspiracy theorists. It turns out it's all wrong. It's completely wrong.
Really? Wow.
Completely wrong. What do I mean it's wrong? Well, what happened at Jekyll Island was a meeting organized by Senator Nelson Aldrich, who was also vilified
Mhm.
in our community because he was the architect of this meeting. And it was a secret meeting, totally secret meeting. We know that later on. I mean, they were told to come to the private railroad car of Senator Aldrich in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Hmm.
These various big bankers, 6 men in all, were at Jekyll Island. They were told, don't use last names, don't be seen together like at dinner the night before.
Right.
Come one at a time. They use first names only or fake names. Total conspiracy. This all came out there. Now, when we read that, for me, that was a big red pill because you're thinking, well, you're going to that extent to meet in secret and do a conspiracy. Can't nothing good come out of that. It sounds very nefarious, doesn't it?
Yes.
But then you begin to learn the context that Senator Nelson Aldrich was the champion of the traditional pro-gold standard, pro-tariff, anti-income tax right-wing Republicans of his day.
Hmm.
He was essentially the Ron Paul of his day, but he was one of the biggest men in America.
Mhm.
He was the leader of the Republicans in the Senate. He served for 30 years. So that he was also hated by the left, the so-called progressives. They despised him. And they put out tons of fake news and attacks against, just like they do against Trump.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you begin to realize this about Senator Aldrich, now you have to ask, well, wait a minute, what is he doing, playing this role in establishing the progressives' dream of a central bank and an income tax? It doesn't make sense. Well, it turns out that what these bankers put together at Jekyll Island, it was not the Federal Reserve System, not even close.
Wow.
And the reason they convened in secret is because of the fake news and the progressives and the early globalist commies of the day. If they had gotten wind of it, that these conservative Republican Anglo bankers were meeting to come up with a solution to the problem of bank runs that used to plague this country. Every 15 years, there'd be a panic. They would have blown it out of the water right away. That's why they meant secret. And now when you think about it further, it's kind of a moot point anyway, because when they finalize their plan, you can't do anything with it until you present it to the Congress, to the Senate. And indeed it was. The Aldrich plan printed up in all the newspapers. I mean, as transparent as can be. The only thing that was secretive was us meeting and putting it together, because we don't need the interference of these goddamn progressives who had already murdered President McKinley, Vice President Hobart. We know what they were about. They were just as nasty and despicable as vile in those days as they are today.
Yeah.
That's why they met in secret in Jekyll Island. And what came out of Jekyll Island, and this is what stuns a lot of people. If you doubt it, read the book. You can't poke holes in this.
Yeah.
I frankly think was a pretty darn good idea. If we had gotten that original plan, it might have been the best thing since sliced bread.
Wow.
The idea was to form the banks, not the government.
Yeah.
The banks to form a National Reserve Association with their money, not taxpayer money.
Yeah.
And it would be decentralized. So when you have a bank that has facing a bank run, because remember, with banking, with fractional reserve banking, your money's not in the bank. Part of your money is in the bank. The other part is out on loans. And these were commercial loans back then, almost all commercial loans. They didn't have credit cards, people buying stuff they don't need on credit cards. This is what fueled the growth of the economy, the commercial loans. But if there was like a rumor, and some of these bank runs, frankly, seem a little bit shady, you have to wonder who's starting these rumors. It just takes one run on one bank and it spreads like a contagion. Everybody loses their mind. You had one in the 1870s, there's another one in the 1890s, and there was the big one in 1907, which is why they were meeting in 1910. We've got to do something about these bank runs.
Right.
They pop up. The National Reserve Association would have had all the banks, get this, membership would have been voluntary. With the Federal Reserve, it's mandatory. That's how they control the whole banking system.
Right.
The idea is you join the association, You ante up, and these are like real money, real gold reserves. And if anybody gets jammed up, the money's pooled. That'll stop the bank runs. And I go into it more depth in the book. Frankly, I think it's a pretty good idea. The entire business community was behind it. The banking community was behind it. Guess who hated the Aldrich plan?
I would have to say central bank that wouldn't want
They hated
this,
it, right? Because they wanted a super powerful central bank. One more thing, this National Reserve Association, they were very sensitive to people being themselves concerned about too much power being centered in New York, the financial capital, because it's like 30% of the nation's bank reserves are managed out of New York City. They're very concerned about that. People in the heartland, the South, like, we don't want to be run by New York. Okay. The board of this proposed National Reserve Association was to have 46 members from all across the country, only 4 of them from the New York district. And they would have all been bankers, no political people.
That'd be great.
So it was what they cooked up at Jekyll Island was actually a decentral bank.
Right.
I think it would have been a very good idea, and it could have done no harm. At the very least, it would have stopped the bank panics.
Right.
Progressives went nuts. No, this is the robber barons, the big capitalists, the money trust. We can't have that. And a process began. They killed the Aldrich bill. Didn't get anywhere in the Senate. And then comes 1912, the big year 1912. The candidate, Woodrow Wilson. It's actually a plank in the Democrat Party opposing the Aldrich plan, which came out of Jekyll Island.
Wow.
Says, no, we got to have government oversight. So there was a whole, Wilson wins, and that was a critical election. It was a crooked election. It was a rigged election because they went out and recruited another progressive, Teddy Roosevelt, ex-president, to run third party in order to split the Republican vote. Wilson's elected with only 40% of the popular vote. He would have never got elected on his own. But it was an actual plank in the Democrat Party, which was a progressive party at this time already. We opposed the Aldrich plan. And get this, they said, this is a central bank. We can have, so they were like sounding like conservatives in their opposition to the Aldrich plan. Wilson is elected. And in 1913, the thing is completely bastardized. And again, I'll get a load of this. Of the 6 men present at that Jekyll Island meeting, I got all the quotes and the receipts in the book. Can't nobody deny this. 5 of them came out strongly opposed to the Federal Reserve Act, especially Senator Aldrich. He said, this is communistic. This is going to be inflationary. And one day they're going to use it to control our political system.
Wow.
That's the architect of the Jekyll Island meeting. So we had it all wrong all these years. Saying Jekyll Island, that is where the Fed was spawned, the creature from Jekyll Island. No, we didn't get the creature from Jekyll Island. The creature from Jekyll Island was killed, totally. And the progressives gave us their version. 5 of the 6 men condemned it. There was only one man present at Jekyll Island who later was strongly in favor of the Fed. And that was the Jewish banker, Paul Warburg. So Aldrich invited them there only to pick his brain. He says, what are you people doing in Germany? They don't have these bank runs in Germany. What ideas do you have? And he talked about the reserve, which is actually a good idea. And that was the only element that was also incorporated into the final Federal Reserve. The rest of it was all corrupted. And you ended up, instead of 46 members nationwide, bankers who knew what the hell they're doing, bankers and businessmen, you got 7-member board, all of them appointed by Woodrow Wilson, all of them progressive Democrats, and Warburg was on the board. So that's what I mean by apologies to J.P. Morgan, because he set up the room where they met. And he was very close to Aldrich. They used to play cards together. Totally opposed to central banking and totally opposed to the income tax. Oh, by the way, guess when he dies? March 1913.
No
5
kid.
months before the income tax, 8 months before the Federal Reserve. He dies suddenly while he's away in Egypt vacationing, gets sick, he can't swallow. And I dug up an old New York Times issue. His doctors don't know what killed him.
Wow.
Mystery illness. So any chance that Morgan and his allies would have had to mount a counteroffensive against the Federal Reserve, maybe like a propaganda campaign, too convenient. He dies March 1913. And then 2 years later, March in 1915. Oh, I should mention, just before the Jekyll Island meeting, Nelson Aldrich is struck a hit and run, and he's knocked unconscious. And this is the kind of stuff that's going on. So we have it all wrong. Something actually good, authored by conservative, anti-tax, pro-gold standard, pro-tariff Republicans, came out of Jekyll Island, and then it was killed by the progressives.
Wow. Yeah. That's incredible research you did on that, Mike. Yeah. That's incredible. And it's amazing that JP Morgan has been vilified in our eyes, especially Red Pill family eyes, that he's a bad guy. That now you just shed a lot of light regards to how that was another spin to lead us into a total different direction.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, the Federal Reserve is the product 100%. Paul Warburg, Jacob Schiff, Bernard Baruch, Samuel Untermeyer, the whole Jewish cabal.
Yeah.
They did that. And one more thing, let me touch upon another major historic event that happened in 1912.
Okay.
And, the only reason I went down this route was because Q, in the Q post, actually says something about the Titanic disaster being linked to the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Doesn't say much more. Now, there were big men on the Titanic. 3 big men who perished on the Titanic. And I learned, it's all in my book, one of them is Isidore Straus, owner of Macy's. Very wealthy Jewish businessman, but he was not part of the cabal. Comes from the retail world. And he was actually a member of a Citizens League promoting this Aldrich plan that came out of Jekyll Island. And he specified, we're structuring this thing to make sure politics stays out of it and that no small group of bankers can control it. He said that in the New York Times just 6 months before the Titanic disaster. So he was totally in favor of the Aldrich plan, which is decentralized and essentially non-governmental.
Yeah.
John Jacob Astor, can't find any direct quotes on him regarding the Aldrich plan, but he given money. He's a Republican. His father was Republican.
Yeah.
He was an Aldrich Republican. These guys were all like cookie cutters. Government stay out of business, small government, gold standard tariff. Exactly. So he definitely was a supporter of the plan. And he was also a supporter of McKinley, who was murdered in 1901. Benjamin Guggenheim, he comes from the copper mining world. Turns out he has a brother, Simon Guggenheim, who was a Colorado Republican senator, another one of these old guard, McKinleyite, Aldrich type, pro-gold standard, anti-Republicans.
Yeah.
So these guys would definitely, all of them have been opposed to Woodrow Wilson, because that was the election year, 1912. And they all of them would have supported the Aldrich plan. And now there's a fourth big man who was supposed to be on the Titanic, but he had other plans. He had to cancel out. And that's JP Morgan. So they would have got all 4 of them that night. So the theory that JP Morgan set these guys up, he sank like that, doesn't hold water because they're all of like mind. All of them supported the Aldrich plan. All of them were anti-Wilson, anti-progressive.
Yeah.
So they didn't get Morgan that night. Yeah. But they got him 11 months later with this mystery illness.
Wow. And the story comes out with the Titanic thing was almost to steer us into believing that JP Morgan and his friends were supposed to do this on Titanic. And then in the last minute, he backed out because he set him up.
Right. No,
that's insane.
Because these guys cancel all the time. They sail across the ocean like it's nothing.
Right.
So, so if indeed something nefarious happened regarding the Titanic, they got 3 big men and they would have taken out Morgan.
Yeah.
And, So that makes sense. But it makes perfect sense because it's such a big year. 1912 is what enables 1913.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes,
everything. So you've got the Aldrich plan sitting there in the Senate.
Yeah.
And they're hoping if the election goes our way, we get some Congress seats, we'll get this Aldrich plan. Cabal, that's the last thing they wanted is the Aldrich plan. Because it's not a central bank. It's just banks pulling their money together to cooperate, independent of government.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I say, and there's so much, I call it Morgan derangement syndrome, very similar to Trump derangement syndrome.
Right.
All
Yeah,
the like
that's it.
that story that he pulled the plug on funding Tesla because he didn't want people to have free energy. No.
Yeah.
He was funding Nikola Tesla and there were cost overruns. And then Marconi comes out with his version of a wireless.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people think he stole the idea from Tesla. But
Yeah.
it was deemed no longer a financially viable concept. So whether he's wrong or right, that's why the funding was pulled.
Wow.
They blame him for that. They say it was just a vicious, greedy. I find out that the amount of money he used to give to his church and charities, he paid for St. John the Divine Cathedral almost single-handedly. That's like the grandest church in New York City.
Yes.
He's very religious, Christian. You read all this stuff, and they did to J.P. Morgan what they tried to do, what they did to Donald Trump. It's obvious.
Right.
These guys, Morgan and Aldrich, 100% against something like the Federal Reserve System and the income tax. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for this piece, because I tell you what, this has shifted my paradigm. It's definitely opened up my point of view in regards to, just how bad the propaganda storytelling in the aspect of the narratives gets driven a certain direction. Even with someone who is just not even part of the cabal, not even part of the corruption, becoming associated with it because they wanted to mislead us, the people, away from the truth.
They stuck us with the Fed and the income tax, and then they blame it on the very people who are trying to stop that.
Exactly. Wow.
You get away with it. Yeah.
Well, let me do this, Mike. Let me pivot this into the current situation that you and I talked about with Dr. Oz real quick, because I think this is almost the same exact playbook that they're using. Okay. So everybody out there in recent week, of course, you saw there's been a clip on social media, especially on X, of Dr. Oz being basically ridiculed and crucified, saying that American people should not retire so we can pay down the deficit that we have. And of course, it brings up a big uproar. But if you actually watch that clip of Dr. Oz's speech, and he's talking about with productivity in your years of being healthy. If you started to work coming out of high school a year early, start to your workforce, and if you are still healthy and productive and you decide to work another year past retirement, that our deficit would actually be taken care of. This has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with don't retire. We need to pay down the government. So by everybody now start to, up yours, Dr. Oz. We don't need you to tell me, you rich, MFer. And this creates a division within American people. So obviously, Mike, this is their MO for as long as this country's been around.
Yeah, well, you can go back and look at from that period of time we were just discussing, not just the articles and the speeches, but a lot of the cartoons, the political cartoons, which were very popular back in the day. This is before TV. Back then, they would disseminate these cartoons.
Yes. And
that theme of class warfare, the robber barons, these big millionaires with the top hat, and the Park Avenue and that. Listen, these guys were making bank during that era. And Morgan and Perkins and J.J. Hill and Rockefeller, they made a lot of money. It was known as the Gilded Age of American history. It's interesting. Trump keeps talking about a golden age, which means Gilded Age.
Hmm.
And he makes a lot of references to this age point in time.
Yeah.
But what's left out of the historical narrative is that during this period of time, the American middle class was expanding rapidly, both in terms of breadth and in terms of income.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wages were going up all across the board. Okay. So don't worry about how much money JP Morgan has. How is that relevant to anything? He's
Right.
not stealing it from you.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, envy is one of the 7 deadly sins, and it plays well.
Mm.
And you look at the cabal, they know the 7 deadly sins, don't they? And
Yeah.
they press upon them. Right? The greed, the envy,
Right.
the pride.
Right.
Big one is the envy. And that's always been a big part of their program.
Yeah.
Get people to envy the rich.
Yeah.
You shouldn't worry about income inequality. Worry about income inefficiency,
Mhm.
insufficiency. That's something we should be concerned about.
Mm.
I don't care if my neighbor's got a bigger house, bigger car. Anybody
Right.
who has that mentality, I mean, come on, you're a
Right.
loser. As long as he didn't steal it from you, that's different.
Right.
But that's really been the key to their success more than anything.
Mhm.
Class warfare, class envy.
Yeah.
They use that to overthrow the monarchies every year because in a free society, this is inevitable. There's people of different abilities, different goals.
Mhm.
You can't have income equality or wealth equality unless you have a tyrannical government.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you press upon that. But people should not be concerned.
Yeah.
About how much money somebody else makes, unless they're rigging the game in order to get that money. That's a different story.
That's
Crony capitalism is wholly separate matter from free market capitalism.
That's
you know,
right. Yeah.
but they use envy, and
Yeah.
to this day, that's been the progressivism, Marxism, just based on envy and hatred. It's very effective, sadly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible stuff you bring in today. I mean, Mike, you're always the best and incredible. So to wrap this whole thing up, we're just a little over an hour. If you don't mind, I'd like to play this little game with you real quick called The Most Glorified and the Most Vilified, okay? And the reason behind it is because the amount of research you do have opened so many people's eyes, including myself. And there's things that you've talked about on other podcasts and also on your own podcast, which is on Rumble. Everybody needs to go subscribe to this because I'm going to tell you, to understand truth is going to help you to have a peace of mind. There's no question about it, right? So let's start with this. The most glorified, the first name that came up in my mind is Albert Einstein.
Mm.
Give us just a little quip of how did this little guy get to be put on a pedestal of this greatness when we know he's not?
Right. Well, as you know, this is much more about politics than it is about so-called science.
Mm.
And I've got in several of my books, such as The Bad War, I talk about Saint Albert. He's a one-worlder, openly advocated. You see his quotes for one world government.
Yeah.
He left Germany. He didn't leave Germany because he was hounded out of Germany. He left Germany because Hitler came to power and communism didn't sell well. He was a communist, total Marxist communist.
Yeah.
Very political.
Yeah.
And all that. I mean, straight down the line, cookie cutter, ultra lefty, one world globalist.
Yeah.
So right there, that explains why he's so puffed up. Because in the world of science or fake science, a lot of these characters are really, they're really nothing scientifically when you look closer, but their names are so big. And then you look closer, what's their politics? So that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Epstein, there was a scientific element of that operation. They would go out and seduce and recruit scientists and puff them up.
Yeah.
So they promote fake science. So that's the politics behind Einstein.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was he was a communist, absolute German communist.
Wow.
Now, as far as the science goes, it's very interesting to note that when he came out with his theory of relativity in 1905, the greatest scientists, physicists in the world were German. Nobody bought it. There's actually a publication It's called 100 Scientists Against Einstein. These are 100 German scientists who on their own got together and refuted him. Said, no, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Some of them were Jewish too.
Hmm.
And lest anyone say, oh, that's because of the Nazis. That's Nazi propaganda. No.
Wow.
This was it. This booklet was published
Yeah.
1931. This is 2 years before Hitler comes to power.
Hmm.
Okay. So this had nothing to do with anti-Semitism.
Right.
Top scientists in Germany said, this is garbage, this theory. The great Nikola Tesla, to his dying day, said relativity is false.
Yeah.
It's
right.
wonderful math equations, but there's no correlation to reality. Tesla said that.
Mm.
How do you account for the fact there are many physicists to this day, probably not too many who want to speak openly about it, but they still exist to this day. Say, no, this is nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about science is once you truly establish something scientifically,
Right.
very soon afterwards, you're going to have 100% consensus because it's fact. You've proven it.
Mm.
Not so. More than 100 years after relativity. Don't buy it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't buy it at all myself. And I will say quite openly, I don't know nothing about physics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So how can I say something like this with confidence? Because I do know a thing or two about philosophy, good logic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you cook up some math equations, which he didn't cook up either, by the way. Whole story there.
Yes.
But just because you have like math equations that supposedly explain a certain phenomenon.
Yeah.
How do you know in the absence of actual experimentation and observation that the math equation correlates to reality?
Right.
Sort of like a word problem. Remember you had a word problem and you had to extract from the sentences, the written word, a math equation and then solve the word problem?
Yeah.
What if you extracted the wrong math equation? You could solve it.
Yeah.
And, if it's a complex math equation, you solve it properly. Maybe the teacher will give you partial credit.
Yeah.
But if that's not what the word problem's asking you, what is it? You've detached from reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what relativity does.
Yeah.
According to relativity, space is warped.
Yeah.
How do you know that? Time is relative. It claims that if you go fast enough, you slow down time.
Yeah.
Okay. Has anyone done that in experiment?
Yeah. Right.
It's like Star Trek-y stuff.
Yeah.
Explained by math equations. No experimentation can prove relativity.
Right.
And Einstein himself even says that.
Mm.
Now, he also says that the speed of light is nothing can go faster than the speed of light. The speed of light is constant. Well, how do you know that?
Right.
What if you're traveling in an airplane? Let's say you're going 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And you turn on the lights, the headlight.
Yeah.
How fast is that headlight? Well, it's speed of light plus 1,000 miles an hour, right? No, relativity says, oh no, it gets capped. That doesn't make any sense. Stuff like that.
Yep.
There have been there was an experiment 15 years ago.
Yeah.
In Switzerland, two physicists, they repeated it. They went public. They say, we broke the speed of light with neutrinos and CERN. Made big headlines. Everyone says, this disproves Einstein.
Yes.
And I remember that.
Yes,
I said,
remember.
You watch. They're going to get these guys. They're going to get to them. It's going to change.
Mm.
So then they said, they repeated the experiment. The instruments weren't calibrated properly. It was actually a tie. And then these guys ended up losing their position.
Wow.
And they're disgraced. What did they do wrong? It's like, how dare you challenge Einstein? So the theory itself it makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
At all. And I say that I concede that the math equations are brilliant and they're correct. Fine.
Right.
I'm talking about philosophically, logically. How do you know in the absence of observation that this stuff is according to relativity? Let me put this in simple terms.
Yeah.
If you have two straight lines, let's say you have two spaceships going through space.
Yep.
And they're perfectly parallel at all times.
Right.
According to relativity, at a certain point, they crash into each other.
Yeah.
Because the space is curved. Like the inside of a cone, let's say.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know that? Well, the math equation. All right, stop right there. That's the whole problem.
Right.
It's been pounded into generation after generation of young physics students.
Right.
Now to question Einstein,
Yeah.
it's like questioning the Holocaust or something. I think you're crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing to it.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring that up.
Science is garbage and the man is garbage.
Yeah, being glorified to the point where there's people that will fight tooth and nails because they invested their whole life into the career of science.
Yeah.
Will absolutely die
Yeah.
over this, and it
Yeah.
just blows my mind that nobody ever questioned it. You know, and I remember you bringing it up a while back, and I just went, "Oh man," because I have often wondered, how did this guy get so glorified being this, and yet I've never seen any proof anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do have a long list, but I want to chop that down because I know, the other guy that I felt that it's been glorified that a lot of people would stake their flag on is the baby boomer generation. Absolutely believe 100% the greatest journalist is Walter Cronkite.
Oh,
Right?
Uncle Walter. Yeah. The most trusted man in America.
Yeah.
CBS assures us.
Yep.
Your first red flag right there.
Yes.
But yeah, he was a CBS news anchor. I guess he had like a 20-year run from the early 60s into the late 70s.
Yep.
And, maybe people your generation might not appreciate this as well, but back in those days, you don't have cable, you don't have internet.
That's right.
You just had the big three networks: CBS, ABC, NBC. At that time, I don't even think ABC had a nightly news program, so it was just two. And Cronkite got most of that market share. So at any time during a given week, somebody's watching Uncle Walter, like 75% market share. It was huge. He was the anchor. He told the American people what to think every night, delivered the news.
Yep.
But, it is such a dangerous creature because his delivery had the appearance of being no nonsense, just the news, neutral.
Right.
I mean, my father was a right-wing guy back in the day. You loved Walter Cronkite. He thought he was a serious person. Doesn't mess around, just gives you the facts. But therein lies the trick.
Yes.
Okay, he's just like your uncle from Midwest America.
Yeah.
But he put out the fake news night after night. But he did so with a demeanor and a delivery so trustworthy and down to earth. And if the viewer doesn't know, he doesn't have the full context of things, you just take it at face value. So he's not like one of these like MSNBC lunatics where, if you've got some discernment, you can say, okay, this guy's liberal. He's got Walter Cronkite. You couldn't tell because he was such a good actor. But he was a left-wing commie pinko, one-worlder, just like Einstein. And in 1999, he's been retired a while now. Yeah. He received an award from the World Federalist Association. They call it the Global Government Award.
Wow.
He came right out and said, I couldn't say these things when I was a newsman, but now I intend to speak plainly. We need a world government. There's video of it.
That's right. Yes.
But man, he sold a lot of BS. Vietnam War, the Tet Offensive, the first Earth Day. He did a whole special on that. The dangers humanity is facing, this and that. But he's really a destructive force. And there'll never be another Walter Cronkite, thank God.
Yes.
Simply because the deep state, they're out of business now anyway, but apart from that, they'll never be able to achieve that level of market share with a single individual. Everything is so decentralized and broken up now. But he was a left-wing commie pinko globalist liar. And when I say this about people, I can back it up.
Yeah.
This is his own words.
Yeah.
We need a world government. Einstein, his own words. We need a world government.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's interesting, both of these individuals you mentioned, they both openly said, I'm almost quoting verbatim.
Yeah.
We need a world government to solve these crises. In Einstein's
right.
day, it was the crisis of a potential nuclear war. We need a
Right.
world government. It's the only way to solve this problem.
Right.
Cronkite, it's the global warming.
Yep.
So there's always got like a crisis.
Yeah.
As the pretext for your one world government.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So to wrap this up, I'm going to go to the most vilified. And I know we've heard you talk greatly about this in the past. So I'm not going to just want to talk about this guy, but I'm going to just mention his name, Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
Okay. So we all know that he's so vilified to the point into our culture that is just unbelievable, that if you ever said anything good about him, you are the total asshole for saying that.
Yeah.
Right. But the other guy that I've recently, this last 5 years of awakening about being most vilified is Gaddafi.
Yeah. There's another one. Yeah.
So share with us a little bit of what you have learned about Gaddafi, what you know of Gaddafi, and why he is so vilified.
Well, he's vilified, of course, because he stood in the way of Israeli, or he opposed Israeli expansionism. So that would make him an enemy of Israel, of course, as would all of the other surrounding Arab states.
Yeah.
Gaddafi takes it even a step further, though.
Yeah.
Because he's not just sympathetic to the Palestinians and against Israeli expansionism. He would give speeches about geopolitical matters, and he would go into areas where even many Arab leaders dared not touch, such as Israel killed JFK. Gaddafi said that in speeches.
Yeah.
Fake pandemics so they can sell the vaccines.
Yes.
Right. 9/11 truth, was a 9/11 truther.
Yeah.
So, even there's a lot of vilified world leaders were vilified for opposing the agenda. They won't go that far to open their mouths like that.
Right.
So he was very dangerous talking like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, with the domestic stuff, he had a vision of unifying the African countries. I don't mean into a single nation, but to work together so we're not exploited by these globalists, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good things, his economic system for his people.
Right.
Right. Not a Rothschild central bank. So he checks all the boxes in every which way, opposing both the globalists and the Zionists. So, of course, he was vilified for the longest time and had to be taken out. But I think there was a special animus towards him because of his willingness to publicly voice conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he cared about the people. I mean, he was a leader that really cared about his people, right? He offered free energy.
Yeah.
That to me itself is like, what? A country's leader will give you free energy?
Yeah.
That's unheard of in modern society, as far as I know, right?
And that's a big no-no. The globalists have always wanted to restrict energy and make it as expensive as possible, grind down the living standards of people.
Right.
That's why the Arctic has been locked up for so many years. And there's all these impediments to offshore drilling, nuclear energy,
Yeah.
So they want people to have less energy.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
More dependent, more enslavement. Yeah. But that's all ending, isn't it, Mike?
It certainly is. I mean, we're just patiently waiting now for what I call the great replay.
Right.
Both in terms of the justice that's been meted out to these monsters.
Yeah.
And then also the new system that's going to be coming into place. And I don't have all the particulars about that, but Q did tell us that it's going to end the endless 1913. So this all ties in.
Yes.
Q makes specific references to 1913, which is the year of the income tax in the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
And how many times have we seen Trump or one of his minions talk about abolition of the IRS and the income tax?
Right.
And the open warfare in the Federal Reserve. So that's why it's so cool when you read my books.
Yeah.
You understand better what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And this drama going back to like 1912, 1913.
Yeah.
And now, that whole cabal is being undone.
Yes.
So let's see what happens. I do think things are accelerating because, and as Q said, crimes against children will unite humanity. And that's really the moment I've been waiting for. Because even all of this economic stuff and corruption and even things like voter fraud, it still doesn't really touch people in their core.
Right.
When you talk about children being abducted, tortured, bled, eaten, that sort of stuff by the elites, that's something that could fundamentally transform all of humanity.
Yeah.
Again, Q said that specifically, all of humanity. So even people who aren't interested in politics, all they care about is sports or pop culture,
Yes.
you know, when you hear something like this, it stops you in your tracks.
Right.
And that's what I mean about really changing people. It's got to come out. I've always been skeptical or a little bit concerned. Are they going to hold back because they're afraid of shocking people, etc.? We don't know. But given what's happening recently, I think there's good indicators we are going to learn. You know, like all of a sudden, Nicki Minaj meets with Donald Trump. Right. 2 days later, she's posting all over her Twitter about these Satanists drinking blood. You know, so things like that.
That was big.
We need to believe. Yeah, I think little by little, the public will learn what these people are up to. Not just hanky-panky with 16, 17, 18-year-old girls, okay? Inappropriate though that may be, that's nothing to like when you're talking about torturing infants and little children and eating them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, the celebrities that's you know, currently brave enough to start telling their stories is going to also open up a different paradigm for a lot of people. One of the things like Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin talking about having, you know, at age 11, you know, being passed around and things of that nature start to come out. You because most of us watch that movie every Christmas.
Right.
And that sinks and hits hard when you realize that innocent young kid who is such a great little actor was used in this ritual, in this cabal, in this cult, you know, and we're just not going to tolerate this shit. That's really it, right? Mike, you got anything new coming up soon besides the book you just showed us with the JP Morgan book?
Well, it won't be a book for a while. Actually, with my last book, I said that's going to be the last one.
Yeah.
But then when I quite accidentally started to stumble across the real circumstances surrounding Jekyll Island, it just blew my mind. So I got to write about this.
Yeah.
Because I've been repeating this for 34, and everybody repeats it every year. Oh, JP Morgan, Nelson Aldrich, the Fed.
Yes.
And so future books, not so much. I think right now I'm just going to focus on articles, and I do my Rumble shows. By the way, I've got Rumble channel, Mike S. King. If you go to my website, realnewsandhistory.com, you'll see the link for my Rumble channel and also the Mike King University. Please get my PDF package. You won't regret it. If you ever thought, well, I'm not really interested in history, but believe me, when you learn the real history, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because it's drama, it's suspense, it's intrigue, it's murder, and it's true. Okay. And it leads up to the modern day. So that's and then of course there's a physical for it. But bookmark the website at the very least and get on the free mailing list, realnewsandhistory.com. Thank you for that. Thanks for your support.
Yeah. And also sign up and support on levels of, you know, contribution. Because I'll tell you, you know, your work is so incredible and is so needed for our society. And I can't stress enough to people out there that, hey, you know what, for a month, that if you just don't do one Starbucks and contribute to Mike's research, this makes a huge difference. And I'm not just talking out of my mouth. I support, you know, and the reason why I support, because it has made me understand our world better. And I thank you so much, Mike, for doing the work you do. You are exactly what we needed at this time of our life. No doubt about it.
You know, it's really always bothered me that so many good people, not stupid, but they think the elites think you're stupid, and they just put a blindfold over your eyes and gaslight you and make fun of you.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting. The feedback and response I always get from people. They're buying my books. and they're saying thank you. I mean, how often does the buyer say thank you to the seller, right?
Right.
But it's gratifying, and I had that same sense of gratitude for some of the people who began to enlighten me 30 years ago. It's a horrible thing to go through life oblivious to the truth, and then knowing that the reason you're oblivious, it's not because you watch the news, you read the newspapers, you're not stupid, and yet you're absolutely clueless because they did that to you.
Right.
And
Exactly.
then when you learn, you get pissed off. You've been gaslighted by the so-called elites, and it's worse than that. They kill you as well in various methods, and they rob you. They kill you. They kill your children. They kill millions of people in foreign countries. They torture babies. How do you not get passionate and fired up about it? And I just pray we get to see executions on TV. We really need to.
That would be the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm right with you on it. Mike, thank you so much again for joining us on the Conversations on the Fringe. I mean, you're always welcome to come back anytime you have time to share your knowledge and your wisdom. And like I said to our Rip-Pilled family, this is definitely the greatest instance of the information that we need to understand our lifetime on why things are the way they are. Right. So thanks again. If you don't mind, stay. I'm going to play us out, and everyone else, thank you so much. Have a great Friday.
Thank you.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!